Yeah, I got a birthday coming up on
Oh
a
yeah.
few days, but it doesn't.
What
None of
day?
that actually matters. Sunday?
Oh, nice.
Is
That's
that
fun.
right? Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm into it, dude.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you doing anything?
no, fuck no. No, I don't do that
Okay.
shit. I ain't a birthday bitch. I ain't trying to celebrate myself. I don't need people to care about me, Christian. I'm a grown man.
I'm a grown ass man. I
I'll
care
wait
about
till y'all fall
myself.
asleep and weep alone like I do every year.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have
Welcome
fun?
back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. And we're gonna skip some of it because we're in a rush. We gotta get out of here.
We're
Daniel's gotta
doing
pick
it
up his kids.
every day, five
So
o'clock.
we are gonna hurry through this one. So not to cut you off there, I just figured we could just go ahead and, but okay, I can't do it. How you doing, Daniel?
Oh, Christian, I'm great, dude.
All
It's
right.
4th of July, man. That's like America Christmas, and I'm into it.
America Christmas. Love it.
That's right, dude. We were born again. Even better this time. But I'm
Good.
doing good, man. Getting pumped. The kids are excited. How about you? How are you doing, Christian?
I'm doing good, man. Figuring out plans. Don't know quite what we're doing yet, but do know what we're doing today on the podcast.
Yeah.
We are continuing our division wrap up or preview, and we're going to hit you with the NFC South following the AFC South. So without further ado, I'll kind of just start us off here. I'm going to tackle the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers are an interesting team to me. I mean, it starts with the quarterback, as we usually do. Bryce Young really started to heat up at the end of last season after being benched from weeks 3 to 7. He started to look like he belonged in the NFL after that when they brought him back. Nothing crazy to start when he got brought back, but you could see like a noted improvement in confidence from weeks like 8 to 10. But then after the bye week, he posted scores of 17, 24, 14, 14, 27, 17, and then 36. So he was really, really looking strong down the stretch and started to show why like the Panthers wanted him as the number one overall pick a few years ago. Now they go out and they get him a huge target in Tetero and McMillan. And then he's got another year to really adjust to the Dave Canales system. I think we're going to see like continued growth out of Bryce Young. And I expect him to be inside the top 15 for quarterbacks this season.
Ooh, spicy.
Which, that sounds crazy, but he essentially no-showed the first 7 games of the year last year, and he was the QB 20. So like I don't think it's that big of a stretch necessarily, but I don't know. I liked what I saw out of him, so I hope he can help going forward. I only have one share of him, but that would be nice if he could show up. Moving on to the running back room, my Chuba Hubbard drum needs some repairs and some new heads, I think, with how often and hard I've been beating this thing over the years. And it really paid off last season. He finishes the RB14, almost 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns at almost 5 yards per clip. And this was the scary year. We all knew Jonathan Brooks was going to miss at least half his rookie season, but then probably take over for Chuba in then year two. But unfortunately for the kid, he got hurt, which is devastating. But it does leave the door open for Chuba to continue to be an asset in fantasy. Um, you can look at the Rico Dowdle signing as like maybe a threat, but if you look at the pay, Rico Dowdle got 6 million for 1 year, and then the Panthers made Chuba the sixth highest paid running back in the league. Like I think it's safe to say that they're going to be leaning primarily on Chuba as like the three down guy. Now I do think some receiving work could go to Dowdle. I think that might have been why the Panthers signed him. Obviously, just to spell Chuba a little bit, but also if you look at their receiving stats, Rico had 49 targets, 39 catches, 249 yards, and 6.5 per. with 3 scores. And Chuba actually had more targets, but less, and more receptions, 54 and 43, but less yards, only 171, and only one touchdown. At only 4 yards per reception. So I think Dowdle is kind of there to be a guy, to be a bit of a change of pace guy. He's a little quicker, and then be a receiving threat out of the backfield. But I really do think Chuba is in line to have another top 10, 15. I know I just said it for Bryce Young, but a top 10, 15 fantasy campaign. If in PPR leagues, his upside might be limited by the Rico Dowdle signing, but I do think he's going to get a lot of work in the red zone like he did last year, and has a chance to put up like 10 or more touchdowns again. The wide receiver room is really like the big question mark for the Panthers, kind of. The Panthers didn't have any wide receivers over 85 targets last season, but they did have 4 wide receivers that were over 50 and a fifth at 46. So essentially 5 guys at 50 targets. Deontay Johnson was one of those guys with 58 targets. We all know how that went. Xavier Legette was one. He actually led the team in targets with 84, but was incredibly inefficient, only racking in 49 of those 84 for 497 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not great for 84 targets. In fact, you could argue pretty bad. Adam Thielen had 62 targets, but he's 100 years old, so we'll see how that goes. This all of this ramping up is just to say that I think Tet McMillan could see like 90 plus targets this season.
Okay.
He's an absolutely massive frame that will give Young a big target to seek out. And they didn't draft him in the top 10 when they had one of the worst defenses in the league to not throw him the ball. If you look at Tet during college, he was 42 of 85 on contested catches for his college career. That's just under 50%. All that according to PFF. But it's also just a massive amount of chances. Like they were throwing him the ball in contested catch situations all the time. And I think the Panthers are going to look to use him that way. Um, Hopefully his contested catch kills will translate to the NFL, because if not, that could really hamper him, especially with his like separation issues that he has. Um, but his presence alone is going to be great for Bryce Young. It could also be pretty good for Xavier Legette, who obviously was a first round pick last year. I don't think he like profiles as a true number one. Arguably, probably shouldn't have been a first round pick. But having a guy like McMillan there that is the guy, or is projected to be the guy, I think could really help out Xavier Legette, kind of take some of the pressure off of him and just let him develop. I don't know that he has like tremendous fantasy upside. Like maybe a wide receiver 30. Like if they really get moving in that offense, he could be in the 20s potentially. But I really do think this passing game is going to run through McMillan. Um, Thielen should remain a factor as like a safety valve for Young. I mean, he's just too talented at the like nuances of the receiving game to just be ignored. So I really don't think he's going to go anywhere, but I'm not really worried about him. He'll have some pop weeks, I'm sure. And then Jalen Coker was a buzzy name all offseason. It's easy to see why. He was like one of their most efficient receivers last year. He took 46 targets for 32 catches, 478 yards, and 2 scores. So, like, arguably on a per pass basis, he's better than Leggett even was. Like, actually, that's really not even argued. It's just a fact. But I do just kind of see him as like a wide receiver 3 or 4, a great one, maybe, potentially a 2 when Thielen's gone. But this year, I don't see him as much more than a flyer. Real quickly on the tight ends, because we got another division where the tight ends were kind of tough to figure out or get excited about. Tommy Trimble had back surgery this season, or like in the offseason, which kind of led to the emergence of Jatavion Sanders last season, where Sanders set the Panthers rookie record for receiving yards by a tight end. I don't know why people aren't going more crazy about this star. Oh wait, yes I do, because that record was 342 yards. Um, so so it wasn't like anything to get crazy, crazy stoked about. And he only had 1 score tacked on top of that. But jokes aside, I do think we could possibly see like Sanders in the line for more work. He showed promise as like an athletic receiving tight end. And even though Tremble is still technically projected the starter, I just think Sanders is worth keeping an eye on. He's had a good camp so far, apparently. And you could get him fairly cheap. I do see the Panthers offense taking a step forward this year, which obviously makes all these guys a little more intriguing. It does kind of scare me though, because both these guys are like intriguing options, which could make the team just want to use them both, which would drastically diminish their fantasy upside. But worth keeping an eye on. Quick on the IDP guys, their star. If you need defensive line help, you got Derek Brown. He's always solid. But really, the sleeper is third round pick from last year, Trevin Wallace. He did not see consistent playing time until week 5, and he also missed the last 3 games of the season with a minor injury. All that said, he still managed 64 tackles, 36 of those being solo, and 2 were tackles for loss. And his debut game, he had 15 tackles. Now he's projected as the starter. He's talking about how he feels like a starter now, and everyone is talking about how they're going to rely on him to be that guy. So I think he can just have a massive season in terms of tackles. And this defense needs playmakers. So hopefully Wallace can be that guy for not just the Panthers, but for your IDP team. And he's only rostered in 42% of IDP leagues on Sleeper.
Dang, man. I like it, dude. There's some good throwbacks on those offensive studs, man. You're making me I don't know, dude. It's the Panthers, right? So they've just
Yeah.
been floundering for years, it seems like,
Uh-huh.
offensively. Honestly, I mean, it's insane the players that they've had, CMC, Cam Newton, DJ Moore, and you
Yeah.
think about, you know, they've just been struggling to have any name. And you kind of have convinced me in some regard that they've managed to stabilize like across the entire skill position roster, and like stop the bleeding,
hmm
in a way that we could see a rebound. I love the Sanders call. Like that's a good call. He's a sleepy sneaker. I do think Thielen, he's never gonna die, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think he offers a little bit of something. And dude, I don't know why I like Jimmy Horn Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much, but he's a guy that I can't like take my eyes off
Mhm.
of. Like anytime I think of the Panthers, I think of him. If I'm like, who's McMillan? Oh, but I do know who that Horn guy is. Like, I got it all backwards here, but I mean, you're right. Chuba is awesome. I can't read too much into the contract stuff after
Mhm.
what happened with Ramondre last year, where I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, they
that's
give him the
fair.
money, they give him the
Yeah.
work. Um, but only in a perfect world does success and money correlate. A lot of the successful guys are underpaid, and a lot of the overpaid guys are laying goose eggs. So
hmm
it is cool, though. I mean, this whole division kind of goes on and on about like, when's it gonna happen? Like, when are you gonna, have a pop year? And the Panthers are totally overdue. Maybe they can get a
Yeah.
little bit more of a foothold on the competition, but I don't know. I'm excited. You put it all together and it gives me something to be hopeful for. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and hold on to that. I'm gonna hold on to it.
Alrighty.
Um, and then yeah, I guess I'll start with the Bucks. I'm wearing the Me 13, the Mike Evans
Hell
jersey.
yeah.
Yeah, no one else calls him Me 13. It's a TB12 joke, and I think it's amazing. But
It's
I'm gonna
pretty
keep
good.
it rolling with it. Um, so yeah, anyway, I'll just take a deep breath, slow down, and get you guys ready to party with the Bucks. Because they're just kind of kicking butt. I mean, the AFC South is kind of rough, guys. Let's talk about it. Last year or last week, I talked about the NFC South and how they were the losingest division in the NFL. Well, the NFC South has done them a solid by winning 3 more games, so a total of 28 games won in this division. And the Bucks seem to be like pretty much dominating the middling division that this is. They won their fourth straight NFC South regular season last year, and Todd Bowles in his third year is just kind of making things happen. He's on his third OC in the same number of years. You just talked about Dave Canales. Last week we talked about Liam Cohen. And I think that this time it's going to be more the same. Like there, you don't can't really count him out when he goes to switching it up because they're going with the passing game coordinator. His name is Grizzard, which is a crazy name. So I'm
Whoa.
going with it. I'm just calling him Grizzard. I'm not going to call him Josh. That's his first name. Just call him Grizzard all the way. Um, but we've seen it. This team has stabilized themselves in a big way. And last year, they managed to be top five in total scoring, passing yards, and rushing yards, which is a pretty outstanding accomplishment. And like I said, Bull's third year pretty good. Fourth year, we're going 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins this year. I doubt it, but we'll see how it goes. Baker's just cooking. He had his best year to date with 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. Outstanding. Really don't believe it. I had to check. I cross-referenced those stats because I couldn't believe it, but it's true. He was a QB4, and he only had 4 games outside of the top 10. So that's being balanced with 7 games inside the top five. So he's really hitting his peak right now. And he didn't really have much of a impact when they changed OCs last time. So that's why I'm saying, hire from within. I see more of the same, nothing negative coming in. Um, and the offensive line is probably a good part of why this team is so successful. They're top five PFF graded for both run and pass blocking. So when you have that kind of consistency, then you can have success. And, I'm wearing this jersey. I know what it is. You guys know what it is. Baker Mayfield, besides having the protection, also has high level wide receivers that make everything go really smoothly for him. So I don't know. It was kind of an emotional end of the season for me and the Mike Evans fan wagon, the rally wagon, as we saw him hit his 11th consecutive season with over 1,000 yards. And it was kind of hilarious to watch NFL franchise shift from like professional to personal as they force fed him targets in a game that
Mhm.
they probably should have been kneeling in just to make sure he got that. But that was pretty cool. So he's at 31 now, and he was the wide receiver 14 last year. And for me, it's tough to profile like what's going to happen with him because he's been hitting triple digit targets. Him and Godwin have been pretty much toe to toe, just like staring at 130 targets apiece. They both missed a little bit of time last year, but I really am struggling with the target share distribution at this time, but I think that Mike Evans has another top 20 wide receiver year in him.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is the potential for Chris Godwin to have a slow start after having the ankle injury last year. He's hoping to be ready for week one, but if you're not practicing the offseason, you're probably going to have a slow start to the season. But that didn't scare the Bucks away from signing him to a $66 million extension for 3 years. Let's be honest, he had a great season last year. He only played 7 games, but he had 62 targets, and he was going 1 for 1 with Mike Evans on the target count. So whenever Godwin gets up to speed, he's going to be the guy that he's always been. They want him to be the leader of this team. Mike Evans just refuses to step down from the throne. And with the potential slow start on Godwin, that's why I think you're going to end up with Mike Evans kicking all the butt. But normally, you know what you're getting with this wide receiver room. But I don't know. Tampa Bay just went crazy and at the 19th overall pick, decided they wanted to get a little Buckeye in their action. So they went with Emeka Ibuka. And I don't know about you, but I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah.
Um, but when you're looking at him coming into what is a fairly established wide receiver room, barring some missed time, it's hard to like pencil in, where everyone's gonna be landing at. But I gotta give him a baseline of 80 targets. I
Hmm.
know a lot of us think about JSN's rookie year when he came in, and he had DK and Tyler Lockett as established, and he had a bit of a slow start, but then now he's on fire. So I'm kind of profiling something like that, depending on how Godwin gets up and going. But the real sad part is that Jalen McMillan was out there crushing it last year. He had 58 targets and 8 scores, 461 yards, was pretty decent.
Yeah.
But I just think this draft capital kind of just squashes him. The thing with this team is there wasn't a ton of movement whatsoever in the wide receiver room, just additions, no subtractions at all. Like everyone on this team that had 10 targets last year is still on this team. So Sterling Shepard had 50 targets. There's a handful of tight ends getting a little bit of target action. And I feel like all of that is just going to get mopped up by Ibuka. So I fear for McMillan. I don't really think that he's going to be able to hold off the competition, but as the years continue, Evans can't play forever. We'll see what happens with that. But for now, I think you got to ride the draft capital with Ibuka. So yeah,
Yeah.
we got to get him some targets though, and I think there's some available from the tight end room. I don't think Kate Otten is a safe uh, tight end at the moment. He was hitting the mid 80s in his target share last year. But again, there was a ton of injuries. He ended up as
Yeah.
a tight end 14 in just 14 games. And it sounds nice, but seriously, 50 of his season-long 140 points came in weeks 8 and 9 when both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans
Mm.
were missing time. So, you know, he popped as the tight end five, in 1 out of 3 games that Evans missed, but he struggled to be top 10 in any game that Evans was in. So I don't think he has the consistency. Really, down the stretch, he was kind of a disappointment as a tight end, but he did have some nice weeks in there. So maybe keep an eye on him. But I really do think that his workload is going to get pretty much zapped. And a
Okay.
big reason is, they're also passing to the running back high volume. We had Rashad White and Bucky Irving in there getting 57 and 52 targets. So that's quite a bit going to the running backs. Plenty of it in the red zone. And I honestly, I was pretty impressed with Rashad. He ended up being the running back 22, even
Hmm.
though, Bucky set the world on fire. So I thought it was impressive. He out targeted Bucky, and he out touched him in the red zone as well. So he's a trusted member of the team. Definitely giving him 1B status. And I know you and I have talked about this, and I've struggled with this, but the thought of like the value that Bucky Irving has right now,
Hmm.
um, it doesn't make a ton of sense. He had a great rookie year, the best rookie year out of all these guys as
Hmm.
far as rookie running backs go last year. And he hit the end zone 8 times. He caught all but 5 of those 52 targets, and he was running at 5.4 yards per carry. All of that's pretty solid. But you get on keep trade cut, and they put him at running back 7.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, that's above Jonathan Taylor
No.
and Brees Hall and Kyron Williams. And I'm telling you, sharing a backfield with a guy that was just at RB22, like he has solid competition. These other guys aren't even, have at all. And it's a very balanced offense. I feel like Brees, Jonathan Taylor, those guys are definitely prime for a bounce back. I don't see long-term RB7 action for Bucky. But that's just me. I like him a lot as a runner and a player, but it's hard for me to envision that coming to fruition. So good for him, but I think he's probably outside the top 12 finishes this year. Just kind of my take on the whole situation. But Tampa Bay, they've got a lot of good things going on. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in on my IDP player for them. Um, and it's the stud is Antoine Winfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard not to be. He only played 9 games last year, so that was a slow year. But the previous year, he played a full 17 and had 300 IDP points in our format, which is I mean, that's lights out. So you got to go with that all the way. Um, and then guys under 50% rostered, kind of sleepers. I like Hassan Reddick joins this team. So I think that there's potential for him to have a nice little season after missing some time. He was always, kind of middling, but I think he could pop. This is a really stable defense that has kind of featured multiple superstars. So looking for him to come in and make a pretty good contribution, filling in at the D line spot, dude. That's a good value right there. You can slide him right in
Yeah, if he shows up to
if he
camp and
shows up. I know
if
we've,
he actually
we've
plays.
had this
But
conversation.
I'm with you there. I almost wrote him down for the IDP spot too, but I was just like, I don't even know if he's gonna play. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're dead on with everything you're saying. The more I look at it, it seemed weird when they took a Buka, but like I kind of love it.
Yeah,
And
it's growing on me for sure.
yeah, I think he's gonna really surprise people in his rookie season. I think all of us were kind of like, oh, what? At first, but I don't know. It makes a lot of sense to me, especially with the Godwin injury.
Yeah.
Um, I see what you're saying about Kate Otten. I didn't realize that stat about him getting like most of his work when the other guys were hurt, but that makes a lot of sense. I'd also be interested to see how many targets Bucky got when all the receivers were hurt as well, just to see if that was driving it up or not, or if that was going to be a consistent thing throughout the year. But I mean, this offense should be great. Baker continues to get people jobs all over the NFL. So I don't know. I want all these guys. I don't mind Rashad on my bench. Bucky, obviously, I'm with you. I don't know that he gets in the top 10. I think people are just excited and projecting. But then yeah, Evans, Godwin, even McMillan in like a deeper league, he might be able to, or like a I hate this word, but best ball. He
Ooh.
might he might go for it. My IDP guy I just wanted to throw out was Kalijah Cansey. I don't know that he'll necessarily do anything, but as a first round pick 2 years ago, I'm just intrigued and want to see what he does, and I wouldn't mind picking up a flyer on him for some D-line help as well. But yeah, so let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons. Always a exciting team in terms of fantasy. Michael Penix, barring injury, will be the starter for the whole season. There's considerable optimism surrounding him, and we're obviously fans of optimism around the audio parts.
Yes, we are.
But it is worth noting that he only played 3 games, and two of which he scored less than 10 points. Uh, he did have 25 in week 18, which was great. He was the QB 17 and completed 61% of his passes over those 3 games. Um, we obviously expect growth, but I think people might want to pump the brakes on their expectations a little bit. Like I tried to trade for him, and somebody was talking about not even wanting to take a first for him, which okay, yeah, he project like keep your guy, that's fair. But it's just like, I don't know, like it's 3 games. Like let's chill out. I maybe I'm just scared because I did this with Richardson in year one where he had 3 games where he looked awesome. And I was like, oh, he's gonna get better and gonna not get hurt. And he did the opposite. Now, obviously, Penix doesn't have the same issues that he does, but he has some weapons around him. But to me, it's like two elite weapons and then the rest are just kind of like fairly lackluster. Um, One upside is the Falcons did have the 11th ranked line by PFF by the end of the year, and they were actually eighth in pass blocking. So that was really good. And they only lost their center, Drew Dahlman, who's a good player, to be fair. But if you're going to lose a lineman, center to me is like the easiest one to recover from in terms of pass blocking. Um, this means Penix should hopefully have time to get comfortable and start spinning it around the yard. And he'll have Bijan Robinson as his backfield, which is always what you want. Bijan looked exactly how we thought he was going to look last season. And he had a really good rookie year. I think people were mad, and I get it because he only scored like 4 touchdowns on the ground. But it was a good rookie year. Like he looked the part to me. And then he followed it with an RB3 over 1,800 all-purpose yards and 15 touchdowns, with only one of those being through the air. in his second season. And I think legitimately, and this isn't a hot take, but I think Bijan is prime for like an RB1 type season. Last season, overall RB1 that is. Last season he scored 20 points in 10 of 17 games, which is a pretty absurd number. And he was never under 10 points in a PPR league. He forced 99 missed tackles last season, which was second in the NFL. The new coaching staff just like made it clear what they wanted to do with Bijan. They just proved that he's going to be their workhorse from week 9 to the end of the year. Bijan's lowest snap count for a game was 71%. And we were obviously all furious with Arthur Smith when Tyler Algier outtouched Bijan in the red zone in his rookie season, 38 to 34. Well, in 2024, Bijan outpaced Algier 66 to 26 in the red zone. So there's no question there now. It's clear that Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson want this is how they want their RB room to go. So to me, it's Bijan to the moon. Again, not a hot take. And I think Algier loses really any standalone value unless Bijan goes down. If that happens, though, Tyler Algier is in line for some work, and we've seen him be a good player, so he's a clear stash in most dynasty formats to me, and maybe redrafts as a handcuff to Bijan. Moving on to wide receiver, again, super stud Drake London should be in line for a great season as well. He was the wide receiver 5 last year in PPR. He had career highs in every category, posting over 1,200 yards, 9 scores on 100 catches. Uh, and then you got to look specifically like what did he do with Penix though? In the 3 games that London started with Penix, he had 39 targets. He also got hurt in week 16, by the way, and only played 73% of the snaps. Penix threw the ball 100 times, which means London was 39% of his target share by himself. And I don't really see a reason that would change. It's not like the Falcons brought in any real competition on the offensive side of the ball at all. It's really just Bijan and London and then some guys. The Falcons showed how much they value London. They targeted him 8 times in or more in 11 of 17 games. 6 of those, he had 12 or more targets. Again, just absurd numbers there. So give me all the shares of Drake London every day of the week.
Yeah,
Darnell
you
Mooney.
can have them.
Darnell Mooney slowed down after a hot start last season, but I do think he could be a factor once again as a bench or a flex piece. He'll likely remain the Falcons' like speed deep threat guy. I do think his ceiling is still kind of around what it was last year, like wide receiver 30 to 35 range, which is nothing to ignore in these deeper leagues. A lot of people are starting 3 wide receivers or more a week. So like that's not nothing. I just don't think like he's not going to be amazing for you, but I do think he should be a factor. Um, the rest of the Falcons wide receiver core though, like is pretty forgettable to me. Like Ray McLeod could have some pop games, but have fun trying to predict when that's going to happen. I will throw out an undrafted guy to just keep your eye on in Nick Nash. Nash was super productive for San Jose State, and his only competition to beat out is Jamal Agnew, who's 30, Casey Washington, who's that, and Kadero Hodge, who's always just been a guy. Obviously, Nick Nash is older for a rookie. He's turning 26 during the season. I usually throw up at that, and I don't love it. But it is worth noting that he played 3 seasons in college as a quarterback before transferring to wide receiver. And then for 2 years, he put up 158 catches for 2,100 yards and 25 touchdowns. I don't know, just somebody to watch. And he's cheap. Like I got him as a un like no payment uh waiver wire pickup. So or no fab. There we go. That was the word I was looking for. No fab waiver wire pickup. So I don't know, just something interesting to keep an eye on. Tight end. Oh boy, Kyle Pitts.
Oof,
You were supposed to be the guy.
it's a love
Uh,
letter.
Mm.
and Kyle Pitts scorned everyone. I think everyone's taking a shot on him.
I don't think I've ever had him on a roster.
Really? Well, I've had him on too many rosters. Pitts, it was so strange because he looked all right.
Yeah.
Um, at the beginning of the year. Nothing crazy, but he did post 4 straight games of 10 or more points from weeks 5 to 8, and then 25 in week 8. And then he only did that once from weeks 9 to 18. And then from weeks 13 to 18, he only played above 50% snap share once. So apparently the team just seemed out on him, or maybe he was dealing with injuries. I mean, I know he was dealing with injuries, but like maybe they were worse than we feared or whatever. He also only had 12 red zone attempts in the year, or catches. There's just so many reasons to be out on Kyle Pitts. But I don't really see a backup like taking that many reps either. Do you really think they're going to go to Charlie Warner or Tegan Quitterino? Like, those are the
No.
two guys sitting behind Kyle Pitts. So, I mean, Kyle Pitts should still be on the field. But when you look at the Falcons' target share, they had 539 catchable targets last season, and only 87 of them went to the tight end room as a whole. So, only 16% of their targets went to the tight end room, and that wasn't all to Kyle Pitts. Now, it was mostly to Kyle Pitts. 74 of those were to Kyle Pitts. But to me, at this point, especially, I don't know where he's going in redraft leagues, but I would kind of just stay away from the Falcons tight end room. It seems really volatile and not very predictable to me. What I will say for Pitts, just real quick, he is still 24 years old, which is nuts. Feels like he's been in the league for 10 years, just
Wow.
with how much he's
That's
gotten talked about. Isn't
Yeah,
that
he's obviously
absurd?
not getting beat up with all that no production.
Well, I have heard Connor Orr is a guy who's on like the Heed the Call podcast all the time, and he talks
Uh,
about that he actually is taking a lot of damage over the middle of the
oh,
field, like, and that's kind of the reason his production is like he's just getting hit and messed up a lot because he's like a big guy. And they're just able to kind of fuck with him over the middle of the field, basically. So I don't know. I haven't watched enough to agree or disagree with that statement, but it's worth throwing that out there. But I mean, 24 years old, like maybe he'll get a change of scenery, or maybe they'll finally try to use him. Who knows? Maybe he can have like a Darren Waller or an Evan Ingram type of career. We'll see, but for now, I'm kind of out on it. Real quick on the IDP, the star, Jesse Bates, he's probably going to be awesome like he always is, and DBs are kind of hard to find in the sleeper leagues, or at least consistent ones are. So I would take a stab on him. And then Devin Diablo only played 14 games last season for the Raiders, and he didn't really break the stat sheet by any means. 63 total tackles, 4 for a loss. But here's the thing, he's the projected starter in the middle of Atlanta defense, one that is working with some rookie pass rushers to improve that pass rush. So if Walker and Pierce can take off, it could force teams to try to run the ball a little bit more against the Falcons and kind of take the pressure off Diablo. Because the Falcons also have a pretty good secondary as well, with AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates hanging out back there. So I could see Diablo in line for a sizable tackle load this season. And he's only owned in like 32% of leagues or something like that. I apparently deleted that note, but that was around what it was. So Diablo is a guy that is worth a flyer, I think.
all right. Let me write that down on my waiver claims. Diablo. Um, yeah. I mean, the Falcons, like you get what you get, right? There's uh there's not a whole lot of walking around money this offseason in the skill position room.
Yeah.
I do like me some Darnell Mooney, baby.
Yeah. You were
And
all
Nick
over
Nash,
that.
dude. Call the Nash cash. I can't believe that guy didn't get drafted. He's super duplicity on the skill set that Drake London offers. Like
Hmm.
they're oddly similar in their length and their contested catchability, especially in the red zone. So I don't know, maybe two of that same thing is what they want, and that would be great. But what are you gonna do? We need Bijan to the moon. I need Michael Penix to lace up and get it done. And Kyle Pitts, thank you for attending. But Yeah, it's I mean, they seem like a true contender big time in this division. So if they can keep things rolling, maybe they can keep it going. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I know who's probably not going to be able to deliver on that keep it going statement. Yeah, that's the Saints, you know.
Mm.
My 5-win Saints. Oh shoot, I got the Kamara jersey. I didn't switch. I didn't do a wardrobe change.
Damn.
I'll get him on the next one. But
RB episode.
that's right. We'll get him in. Um, but yeah, it's the Saints. Not a lot of change. We'll get into the subtle changes, but it's really, I mean, you got the guy that reigns supreme. It's Alvin Kamara. He won't
Yeah.
let up. He was the RB9 last year in a 14 game season, and he's 29 and he's led the NFL yet again in targets despite not playing a full season. It's just like what we say about him every year. That's incredible. Some of the things that he did last year that are blowing my mind is, with the exception of Juwan Johnson,
Mm.
who had 548 yards from scrimmage, Alvin Kamara had more than three times anybody else in total yardage that was the Saint last year. So
Wow.
that's incredible. And then it's incredibly sad when you consider that he was just under 1,500 yards. That means they only had two players over 500 yards from scrimmage. So
Jeez.
that's rough. And the touchdown work for him was abysmal as well. This just wasn't a team that was getting too much action in the red zone. So it just feels like he's a can't miss guy, but
Hmm.
then anyone that was really enjoying this epic season he was putting together yet again will tell me that he is not a can't miss guy because he did miss the fantasy playoffs with the
Mm.
groin injury. So if you're going to miss 3 games, don't make it the last
Don't do
three.
it those. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you are us and we are them, and this is what we do. You need your studs to get you through the thick of the playoffs. So that was a bummer, but I think that he's not going to disappoint this year. Like I said, there's not a lot new on this team, but the one thing that is new is Devin Neal was
Mm.
drafted here in the fourth round, and I think that he is going to probably establish himself pretty decently. Kamara only had 230-ish carries, which isn't a huge number in the NFL for a lead back, and he's never been that like give me 300 type guy, except for a handful of seasons when he had to be. But I'm looking at Neil. They picked up Marcus Yarns and they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire this offseason as well. So there's enough little like garbage in the running back room to where someone might float up and contend with Kamara's carry numbers. But I do feel like Neal is just like undervalued, and he stands to really challenge Kendre Miller as the number two back in this backfield. And Kamara is getting older. He's still effective as a pass catcher. He's still a huge weapon. Um, but he's not like a bell cow these days, or he shouldn't be treated as such. And I think we're all in agreement on that, even though they did try to force it a few years ago. But the thing that surprised me is he missed that time,
Mm.
and the number two guy in carries was only 48 carries, and that was Jamal Williams. So that's kind of crazy. Like even when Kamara wasn't there, they still weren't running the ball. They're not running the ball as much. And so I'm counting. So 48, we'll call it 50 carries for Jamal Williams. Taysom Hill, kind of a wild card. We'll get into him a little bit later, but he had 39 carries. So
Hmm.
you're looking at about 90 carries that could easily be up for grabs. A little bit of Kamara's action, and you're kind of piecing together a pretty interesting running back two workload, a number two on the team. So the way this team has been trending, I just feel like they have what they need on the roster already to have a contingency plan for Kamara if they want to, have a future lead back that isn't him
Hmm.
between Miller and Neal, or just guys I'm really intrigued. And you got to think, yeah, Dennis Allen, him and Miller were best buddies. And now we're going to Kellen Moore, so maybe Miller will get a little
Yeah.
more of an opportunity. Um,
Hopefully.
I'd like to see it. I mean,
Hopefully
so
his coach doesn't hate him.
well, yeah, seriously, dude. So I mean, this is only there's only good news for Miller. So hopefully he
Yeah.
can get back on the high road and get it done. Um, but yeah, as I mentioned, I'm counting out Taysom. He had an ACL injury late in the year, and the recovery timeline is still unsure. So, with a non-traditional 34-year-old player with $18 million cap hit,
Jesus.
I'm not really, I'm not really thinking like, hey, Dennis Allen tried to keep it going,
Hmm.
the Sean Payton
Yeah,
experiment,
well, and he was a
but
Sean Payton guy.
right.
So like, yeah, sorry.
But like, it's got to be like we're done, right, with this
Right?
whole Taysom Hill thing. So.
Can we be,
Um,
please?
Yeah, and I hate to still keep talking about Kellen Moore, but he's got his opportunity, man. He's finally doing it
Hmm.
after being like, the guy that was going to take over in Dallas, and then that didn't happen, and then he was the guy that was going to lead the Chargers to a playoff appearance, and that didn't happen. That whole system imploded, and then he joins the Eagles and he's the OC and they win the Super Bowl. And like he gets, in my book, limited to zero credit for that, considering this team has been
Yeah.
effective and he wasn't also a body double for Saquon Barkley, which I think probably had a little more to do with it than the offensive coordinator choice. I'm not saying that they would have won if I was the OC, but like I think it probably could have happened.
I
So
probably could have given the ball to Saquon 30 times a game.
there you go. So hey man, there's only one guy that did it. But so anyway, that kind of like this whole Kellen Moore experience, he hasn't done too much to impress me in a while, and I haven't seen him do anything that's like exclusively his to take credit for, except for a
Hmm.
couple of like really nice Dak seasons.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not saying like anything negative. I just can't count on him to get this team that is like big time stuck in neutral going. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. But when you're talking about Taysom, we're talking about the tight end room a little bit, and I think they continue to establish Juwan Johnson,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much what I have in mind for this tight end room. They've got like Foster Moreau, and I don't really know what's going on. But Johnson hasn't really necessarily been over the moon. He finished as a tight end 17, his second best year after finishing as tight end 15 in
Hmm.
2022. Um, but like my expectations for him are mild. He only managed three top 10 weeks last year, and he never had over 14 fantasy points in a single game.
Oh,
And
wow.
those three top 10 weeks coincided with three touchdowns he had. So um, it's it's hard, but you can't take anything away from him given the state of this offense. They really need someone to jumpstart everything, and I think if you're looking at me, I'm about to say the words Chris Olave. He could be the juice this team needs if he's healthy and consistent. Right now, he's a full go at OTAs, and that might make you pumped. But really, even when he was playing last year, he only had one top 10 game, and he had two single-digit games with low targets and high snap shares. So they just couldn't get it going. But I think he's an awesome player. We all know that he has a great potential, but my optimism is slowly slowing down for him. But there's other things to be excited about. Rashid Shaheed, the hype was wild. He never had a top 10 season or week last year when he was playing, but he was explosive and consistent. His third year in a row for having over 15 yards per catch. So he adds a lot of juice here. But based line is the quarterback room was not really doing anything. Spencer Rattler was winless
Mhm.
last year, and then Derek Carr was like he pretty much died on the vine, like he's done for sure. Um, and that's fine. I don't think anyone was really excited about him making a comeback here. But one thing you have to say is that their pass blocking was dead last, on
Awesome.
PFF into season grades. So
That
that's a
helps.
big problem. Yeah, no one's winning with that situation. But the Saints understand. They realize they took it seriously and they used the number 9 pick on a left tackle in Kelvin Banks Jr. So I think that that gives them a lot of potential to, rebuild and reestablish that
Hmm.
as they go forth with a quarterback. I actually kind of have half a mind that Spencer Rattler's going to get another chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's like sad. He only threw 4 touchdowns and 5 picks last year, but he was kind of like heating up towards the end of the year. And you have to remember, like Olave and Shaheed were out, and like Kamara was out when he was really getting his starts towards the end of the year.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, he put together some okay little games. It's between him and Shuck, and Shuck, I want to like him. It's 25, second round pick. No shortage of red flags. I mean, old injuries. He's had 2 collarbone injuries, a fibula injury, 3 different colleges, all over the place. He was good as a runner, but then like he went somewhere and they're like, "Hey, you're made of glass. You're not going to run anymore." Had some pretty decent passing. Like I like his ball placement, and he did good in the combine drills, and he does seem like a pretty cerebral guy. Like he feels presence and he knows how to kind of shake the pocket when it's getting some heat. So I think that he has some potential, but I don't think his style really profiles too well with Shaheed and Olave's style. They really need someone who can push the ball downfield. So I'm not really too pumped. I think that they get, shortchanged on the win column pretty heavily this year and probably take another quarterback in 2026 is kind of what I'm feeling, but it's just more of the same. I mean, Brandon Cooks is here now. Hooray, I guess. Nothing to say there, but not a lot of targets to go around, not a lot of touches to go around, not a lot of leadership in the quarterback room. And I really like Alante Taylor quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
He
if
was great
he's
last
probably
year.
my stud, even though he fizzled out just like the whole rest of this team down the stretch last year. And then a little sleeper, I like Carl Granderson
Okay.
coming out. He's only rostering 36% of leagues. He's another one of those kind of edge linebacker, D line qualifying guys. He's had some pretty good seasons, but he still needs to pop. But I think he's one of the more consistent players on this defense that really is just a bunch of leftover Kansas City Chiefs and Chase Young. So I don't know what you can say about that to get pumped.
Yeah, it's I mean they're gonna be bad. Like say what you want about Shuck. I'm not really into him either, but I picked him up because he's gonna play. Even
Yeah, I
if
bet
you're
he
right.
starts by week 3, but
Yeah,
I think Spencer does get a chance to fail.
I was about to say, even if you're right and Spencer does get a chance to fail, I think he will fail, and then Shuck will be in there because I Spencer Rattler looked like ass to me
Hmm.
last season. So I would probably just start Shuck. And I mean, it to me, it's clear the Saints are tanking. Have been in cap hell forever. They're gonna just suck this year, and then they're gonna move on and figure it out next year and with whatever pick they get. They obviously wanted to address the running back room because they still have CEH. They drafted Devin Neal. They got Marcus Yarns undrafted, and they signed Cam Akers. So I do think they see the writing on the wall. Like I don't know if it's a mid-season trade for Alvin Kamara or they wait till the end of the year and do something with Alvin Kamara, but like I think they kind of see that like okay, this isn't and he's like a superstar and he's going to be wasted on this
Yeah,
roster. So I'm obviously still holding out hope for Kendra Miller. I was a big Kendra Miller guy. I do like Devin Neal a lot too, so I think that could be a fun room. And that's why I almost think that like maybe it's a Kamara trade.
for sure. I'm with you. Like they're not getting, I mean, it's like a precious keepsake in a
Yeah.
otherwise
And
single wide, like let's
they
just sell this and get some other nice stuff.
yeah, for sure. I mean, they did just sign him recently to an extension, so like maybe I haven't looked at how viable a trade would be. But like an RB room of Kendre Miller and Devin Neal kind of sounds super interesting to me, like as a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore talked about how Kendre Miller has a blank slate, and he emphasized the fact that like He's not. The last couple of years are not going to matter to Kellen Moore, which is awesome. And then yeah, like the wide receiver room, Rashid Shaheed's fun, but I think we've seen exactly what his ceiling is and what he can be. And then I'm glad you're still into Olave. I have one share of him, and I would trade him in a heartbeat if I could, but I don't want to trade him for nothing. Like I want to get good value out of him because he is. It's not just I do think he's a good player, and I just think the Saints are going to suck, and
Mhm.
B, I'm just terrified of his concussions. Like he's gotten to the point of like Tua level
Yeah.
where like if he gets another concussion, is he going to be out the entire year? Like, and
Yeah.
that's just not a lottery ticket that I'm interested in.
Mhm.
So if I could get good value for him, I would trade him. But I'm also fine holding on to him because the talent is there. And then, like you're saying about Juwan Johnson, like, is he? I guess we'll talk about it in a minute, but is he like the tight end you want to rely on the most in this division? It's a weird division. Uh, you would think it'd be Kyle Pitts, but nobody will anymore. And then IDP, I love both your picks. I'll throw out Pete Werner as just
Mhm.
like a guy you could pick up and probably use for a couple weeks, but nothing crazy. Well, there you have it. That is the NFC South. You want to do our division leaders at each position real quick?
Yeah, who do you think's gonna win? Lead the I think we can just go ahead and say Bijan.
Bijan for running back, wide receiver, I think Drake London,
Okay.
and then QB is Baker Mayfield.
Okay. Yep, big time.
And then tight
Um,
end is where it gets a little weird.
yeah.
I mean, you would hope Kyle Pitts, like maybe he can figure it out with Michael Penix, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
I'll give
seem
you
like he.
Pitts. I'll give you Pitts.
I honestly, I have Kate Otten written down,
I
but
know you do.
you kind of swayed me
Um,
away from that. So like, I'd honestly be
look
fine.
at the playoffs for K Dot, and
It's
it pretty
pretty
much
bad.
tells you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
the
maybe
NFL playoffs.
maybe Jawan Johnson.
Yeah, I'll take Juwan Johnson, dude. I think he actually marries up with Shuck pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to say he could be like just a safety valve on that offense, and just like, yeah, let's just
Yeah,
fuck
I
it.
would
Let's
go
do
for that.
Juwan. I'm over it.
Sweet.
This will be the year that Pitts goes off, but
I hope so, dude. If we can goad him into it, we'll do this same thing again, rest of his career.
fuck it. Well, all
Yeah.
right. I know you got to get out of here, pick up
Yes,
some
sir.
kiddos. So that will be us for the week. We are going to hit you with another division next week, but until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Happy fourth. Count them digits.
Woo!
I took a lease out